Hello and welcome to another episode of the podcast, Confessions of a Nerdy Bible College Student. I'm your host, Luc Reed. Alongside me, my lovely co-host, Gwen Smith.
Greetings, programs.
If you tuned in last week, you probably heard some of the deep discussion that we got into in regards to the value of church and its tradition. If you didn't catch it, you could probably go back and find it. It was a great conversation. This week, we've got a new guest. He might call himself an old man, but he's actually pretty hip. Our friend, Tyler Hardy.
That's me.
As a way of introducing our guest, I thought we'd start out by asking our get-to-know-me questions. So Tyler, where did you grow up?
Upstate New York.
Yeah, just like Gwen and I, so we got the New York crew on tonight.
Heck yeah.
And when did you realize that you were in fact a nerd?
It was when my parents brought home the original Star Wars trilogy, and we got to watch each of those. I fell in love with it.
Yes. Who wouldn't? And when did you become a Christian?
When I was 5 or 6, my mom led me through a prayer asking Jesus into my heart, and ever since then, that's the same way that I felt.
Excellent. And what made you decide to come to Kingswood?
God.
Good word.
Yes,
good word.
Yes, that's a good answer. Awesome. So now that we know a little bit more about you, Tyler, we'll move on to the next segment of the show. What have you been doing that has been kind of nerdy this week?
Oh, wow. I watched Doctor Strange the other day. I also read an interesting paper comparing the Christian faith to the Jedi path.
Sounds like an interesting read.
Mm-hmm.
And you, Gwen?
I've been still working on my geeky white noise program and getting all those tracks downloaded and organized and things like that.
Excellent. And I think after the show last week, you were saying that you've been trying to use it to help you sleep. Is that?
Yep. The background noise is actually helping me sleep at night. You think it'd be interesting, a country girl being able to sleep to the sound of shuttles flying by in a Coruscant apartment.
Yeah, that would be interesting. As far as me, I also we Tyler and I went and saw Doctor Strange together, so that was a really enjoyable experience, really great movie. Like Albert mentioned last week, I've been playing some League of Legends myself. I actually finally reached level 30, which, if you know anything about that, that's the highest level that you can reach in the game, so pretty proud of myself for that. Alright, so now that we've got the topic of the show up next, which should actually be an interesting topic. It's probably going to get kind of deep and maybe a little bit controversial, but I thought that since we're all Star Wars nerds here, we could talk about some Star Wars stuff. So first up, I'll start talking about the story in general, as a broad, just all the movies and everything intertwining and the story in general. What do you think, Gwen?
What do I think? I think a lot of things. I'm pretty biased towards Star Wars. It it's kind of been the thing that I've grown up with. It's such a complicated storyline. Like, you really have to know your stuff to really understand what's going on.
Yeah, all the different characters and their motivations for doing things, and yeah.
It's especially interesting when you're watching the series with someone who hasn't watched it before in the way that you're supposed to watch it, which is the original trilogy, then the prequels, and then the new 7 movie. Yeah,
and I mean, there's lots of different ways to watch it. I've seen that, you can keep it so that it doesn't spoil that Darth Vader is Luke and Leia's father until right at the last minute, and then watch episode 3 and go and see how that all works. It's interesting, to say the least. Tyler, what do you think about the story?
I love it.
You love the story?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a deep story. It really gets you, and if you just watch the movies, I think, then you end up missing out on a lot of stuff. So thankfully, there's a lot of other content out there that makes it so that you can either fill in the blanks if you need to, go to Wikipedia, which is an actual website, or, actually diving into some of the things, which I find it has been really helpful that, and this will probably be a controversial topic in itself. I find that it's better that they have established the canonization, because that way, not only can they expand on the universe without, messing up the stories that came out after Episode 6 came out that were supposed to continue on the story, so they can give you the official story, but also because it makes it so you don't have to go out and find and buy and read all of these millions of books that, explain all these millions of different connections and things. So I find that it's nice that they've set it up so that this is the canon, look at this content, and you'll know the story. Mm-hmm. So that's nice. Our other controversial topic is the prequels. What is our consensus on that? What do you think, Gwen?
I sort of grew up on the prequels. I mean, obviously, I like the original trilogy more than the prequels, mm-hmm. but I think that the prequels are pretty necessary to set up the original trilogy, mm-hmm. like just to give context to how Palpatine rose to power and things like that. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Like, I like them well enough that, like, I thoroughly enjoy, especially 2 and 3. Those two are I can watch those over and over again. Yeah.
And then Tyler?
Oh, I grew up with them. And I love them. Yeah. I see now a little bit how they're controversial. I have more issues with the Clone Wars than I do the prequels. So. Mm-hmm.
Like the Cartoon Network TV show, yes. And then it moved over to Netflix. Yeah. When it comes to that, they were definitely focusing in on. At first, at least, they were focusing in on the younger audience. They were targeting the younger audience for that. At least that was my impression at first. But I actually went through and watched all of it and found that it actually gets really deep and kind of dark. And then same with Rebels, the Star Wars Rebels show. At first, it felt like they were kind of targeting the younger audience, and then just within the first season, it gets incredibly dark by the finale. But I won't spoil anything for anyone else who hasn't seen it. I enjoy the prequels. I think there are a lot of issues as to why people don't like them. There's Jar Jar, and there's Hayden Christensen, and so many reasons why people hate the prequels, but they do certainly have value, and they do certainly, we have to get to a point where we just kind of have to accept that they exist, and they are what we have, and just go from there. Especially moving on with the new movies and the new, like I was saying, the canonization and everything. What do we think about the new movies that are coming out? Episode 7 and Rogue One, the stories, and the new trilogy. What do you think, Gwen?
Well, I like the new Force Awakens movie. I'm quite excited to see what happens after that. Yeah. With everything that happened in that. I'm not going to spoil it.
Yeah,
if there are people out there that haven't watched it yet.
Oh, man, if you haven't watched it yet.
My father and I have been very excited for Rogue One. My father especially, because the Stormtrooper armor that they're using for Rogue One, they're not as much for show. You can actually do a lot of action stuff in the new armor that they're doing.
Oh, okay.
And my father is really interested in doing the armor stuff right now. After we went to Comic-Con and he got to wear like replica Stormtrooper armor. Like the mold that was used to make that could probably be the same mold that was used to make the Stormtrooper armor in the original trilogy.
Ooh, excellent. Well, they're probably a little bit more updated though, just because I saw a thing once. They were saying how because of the way they did costume design back in the 70s and 80s and everything, when they were going to make episode 3, they had to remake Vader's helmet, actually, because they were looking at the original helmet, and it was not symmetrical at all. Like,
no,
it was,
wasn't.
like, one of the eyes was bigger, and it was just so off. So when they were doing episode 3, they actually mirrored it over so that it would be absolutely symmetrical. So I imagine they've had to update some things with the Stormtroopers as well.
But, like, there probably were some pieces that were from the original.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
Anyway, he's really into that, and he's really excited to have Stormtrooper armor that you can actually wear comfortably without having bruises all over your body.
Yeah, that would be nice. Tyler, what are your thoughts?
Oh, I'm looking forward to seeing the movies. I liked episode 7. I want to see the following movies to know what I really feel about it.
Yeah.
But I am excited to see what they're coming up with, and I'm glad that they're making Rogue One and the Han Solo movie. I want to see what they do with those.
Yeah, yeah, and then there's the third solo Star Wars story film that they're doing, which they haven't announced what it is. There was a thing going around for a while that it was going to be Boba Fett, but now it's question mark kind of thing. So hopefully we'll get to find out what that's going to be. I am excited mostly because if you look at the Star Wars community as a whole after Episode 7, like, there was an uproar. Not only in additions to the community, but also the massive amount of theories that have come up just with what was presented in Episode 7. Because there's so many things that are just like, well, what does that mean? Who is that? Like, what is going to happen next? So, it really is a really great way to continue on the story. And I know a lot of people were upset when Disney bought Lucasfilm, but they're continuing the story. They're expanding the universe. They're capturing another generation's worth of audience. Like, I was reading an article once that said that our generation is really special because it's one of the first times in history that parents can really relate to their children with something on a really deep level. Like, the author of the article was saying that his father was really into Westerns, and he thought that was weird and nerdy because, you know, he wasn't into Westerns at all. But now we're seeing parents and adults who love Star Wars, grew up with Star Wars, and they're having kids, and their kids love Star Wars. And it's going to become this huge generational thing where we'll be able to see, like, you know, 50, 60, 70, 80-year-old people who still love Star Wars, you know. So I think it's going to be great. Did you guys want to talk about the comic books and the books and stuff? Or did we want to kind of just skim over that? Because you guys, I haven't read any of the books, and you guys...
I haven't read the books.
The new books, and then the comic books, I have read the comic books, and they do offer a lot of filling in on the blanks, some of the blanks in between movies and everything, so they're helpful, but like I was saying earlier, you know, if you want to know something, you can just look it up on Wikipedia, and it's there, so... And we could keep talking about all this stuff all night, but I think that's just about all we have as far as time for tonight. So thank you so much for listening to us. And if you have a thought, question, or opinion, we just got a Facebook page, a Twitter, and an Instagram. So you can follow us, tweet at us, share photos, whatever. Just a reminder that this podcast isn't a product of Kingswood University. It's an independent project coming from us students as we finish our education and work to become leaders in the church. Next week, we'll have another topic, someone else to hang out with, and all that fun stuff. Until then, I'm Luc Reed.
I'm Gwen Smith.
And I'm Tyler Hardy.
And this is CNBCS. Stay nerdy, dive into the Word, and have a blessed week.